G'day, I'm Warwick Schiller, and today I want to talk a bit about the question, is my horse a reflection of me? I recently had this question asked of me at a weekend seminar I went to, and it wasn't me giving the seminar, it was a men's emotional resilience retreat, and it was really interesting. It was led by a former combat soldier who's done a lot of stuff. He's worked with Tony Robbins for a couple of years, done a lot of grief work, done a lot of work in the last few years with Gabor Mate, who's one of the world's leading addiction experts. And the other men at this retreat were really cool too. There was one guy who was a former UN hostage negotiator. There was a guy who was a world-renowned couples counsellor, and then there was a fireman. He's a first responder, and he was the one that asked me this question. His wife has a horse, and he said to me, "Oh, I've heard, watching my stuff my wife looks at and stuff, that your horse is a reflection of you." And so he said, "Does that mean if my horse is an a-hole, I'm an a-hole?" And I said, "No, actually, it doesn't mean that." I said, horses are pretty well rounded, and I think you have to be able to be a bit of everything to get along well with horses. And the book we were studying over the weekend was a book that was called King, Warrior, Lover and Magician, and it's a men's self-help book basically, but it says the king he's the guy that has the vision, and the king does things for the service of others. His vision is for the service of others. The lover is the one who brings the emotion, the compassion to things. The magician is the one who brings the analytical mind to it, and then the warrior is the doer of deeds. And we did a little test, and it's almost like one of those Myers-Briggs tests to where you figure out which one you are. And we all have one of those things we tend to fall into. And what we did was we had to learn that we have to be able to use all the rest of them. And we recently did a quiz on social media that was about what training style am I? And there were 4 different training styles in that. And the first one was analytical, and analytical is someone who tends to hyper-focus on the small things so they don't really get anywhere. Then the next one was direct, and a direct type person tends to rush through things because they just want to get the job done. The third training style was consistent, where they only move forward if things are perfect, and they tend to not be risk takers. And the fourth type was a collaborative type, and that's more of an empath, and they're really concerned about how the horse is feeling at all times. And when you took the quiz and it told you which one you were, it then made some suggestions for things you need to work on, because what we tend to do, we tend to get stuck in the one bit we're good at and we neglect the other parts. So I really don't think your horse is a reflection of yourself, but I think they might reflect parts of us that need working on. If you're an angry person and you're too emotionally getting mad at your horse, you will run into some problems with that. But if you're too firm with your horse, you run into problems with that. But if you're too timid with a horse, there's times when you actually have to be a little firm, but there's also times to be very empathetic. So if you're too firm, it'll show up. If you're too timid, it'll show up. If you tend to rush through things, it'll show up. If you are one of those ones that you're not too patient, but you don't want to step outside your comfort zone and go forward until you get this exactly perfect, it might show up. So I would say that your horse is not necessarily a reflection of yourself. Like some people get that saying a bit messed up, like this guy said, if my horse is an a-hole, does that mean I'm an a-hole? Those were his words exactly. But it's more about your horse. Horses are very well-rounded creatures, and I think in order to get further along our path with them, they really reflect back to us parts of us that we probably need to work on. We need to get out of the places we're stuck and get into the places that we're not used to going. And so hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea about what people mean when they say, your horse is a reflection of you.